Let me read to you a passage from the 18th chapter of St. Luke's Gospel, verses 35 to 43. It's the Gospel for Monday of the 33rd week in Ordinary Time, Year 2. St. Luke writes, "As Jesus approached Jericho, a blind man was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard the crowd going by, he asked what was happening. They told him, 'Jesus of Nazareth is passing by.' He called out, 'Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me.' Those who led the way rebuked him and told him to be quiet, but he shouted all the more, 'Son of David, have mercy on me.' Jesus stopped and ordered the man to be brought to him. When he came near, Jesus asked him, 'What do you want me to do for you?' 'Lord, I want to see,' he replied. Jesus said to him, 'Receive your sight. Your faith has healed you.' Immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus, praising God. When all the people saw it, they also praised God." That's from Luke chapter 18, verses 35 to 43. And what does it suggest to us? Well, our Gospel scene today presents us with the scene of a man who may be said to symbolize the profound weakness of man. This man was blind. What could he or anyone else do about his blindness? He could not work for a living, for he was blind. He was a burden on others, for he was blind. How could he ever gain what he needed? For he was helpless in his blindness. He may even have been bereft of any family or relatives interested in looking after him, for after all, he was there alone by the roadside begging. That man could be said to represent countless numbers of persons who suffer one form or other of the evils prevalent in the world. It may be that they are blind, it may be that they are lame or dumb or deaf, it may be that they are deprived of family or property or food or employment. The helplessness of the blind man in our Gospel today reminds us of the evil in the world. But his helplessness symbolized also the helplessness of others. Take the most powerful man in the world at the time, let us say Caesar, and ask, what for all his power could he have done to deliver the blind man from his blindness, even had he been disposed to do something for him? Nothing. He could not have rescued the blind man from his affliction, no matter how many resources he brought to bear on the task. Very many of the powerful of the world are not disposed to exercise their power for the benefit of the poor and the needy, but those who are disposed will very quickly discover how limited is their power in the overcoming of evil. So we could say that the blind man represents the poverty and powerlessness of mankind. There is a further thing we could say. It is that the religions of man are a manifestation of precisely these features of human experience. In his misery and powerlessness, man cries out to the powers above, asking that they come to his aid. Inasmuch as this shapes so much of religion, and inasmuch as religion shapes so much of civilization, it is, we could say, the blind man sitting by the roadside who shapes so much of civilization and history. Yes, we could say that the history of man is encapsulated in the image of the blind man sitting by the roadside, and his religion and civilization is encapsulated in his cry for help. From generation to generation, there is a perennial cry for help arising from the masses of mankind, and this cry shapes the contours of civilization and religion. But our gospel scene today introduces a decisively new phenomenon. It is that within the scene of the blind man by the roadside begging, Jesus Christ is passing by. Moreover, a crowd is following in train. It is a picture of the history of man. Man is sunk in his powerlessness, in his helplessness, and there is no one who help him. A crowd is passing by, and the word is uttered, Jesus of Nazareth is passing by. That is the word that is uttered from generation to generation by those following Jesus of Nazareth. And the response of the blind man is, or should be, the response of man in every generation. He called out, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Caesar and those in power might be powerless to help, even if they were disposed to help, but this time the cry for relief is answered. Jesus of Nazareth has both the power, effortless and unlimited power, and the will to use it for the relief of those in need. His power is shown in mercy. And so we read in the Gospel, those who led the way rebuked him, the blind man, and told him to be quiet. But he shouted all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. Jesus stopped and ordered the man to be brought to him. When he came near, Jesus asked him, What do you want me to do for you? Lord, I want to see, he replied. Jesus said to him, Receive your sight. Your faith has healed you. But of course, the plight of the blind man is a symbol of the much deeper plight that plagues the entire human race, and that is the plight of sin. Sin is man's fundamental problem, and it is the need for liberation from sin which is obscurely at the root of his religions. Jesus of Nazareth is, from generation to generation, passing by. And it is he who saves man from his sin. He is the only one by whom man may be saved. No one comes to the Father except through him. You know, the Dalai Lama visited Mao Zedong in the 1950s in Beijing, hoping to negotiate the status of Tibet. At the end of his visit to Beijing, Mao said to the Dalai Lama that religion is poison. Mao Zedong was sunk in a far deeper blindness than the blind man of our gospel today. The prayer of the blind man is one of the best in all of the scriptures. Jesus, have mercy on me. Have pity. Let us be like the blind man and follow Jesus along the road. But while we follow, let us pray that same prayer. There is so much in us that needs to be healed, especially sin and all its remnants. We need to be brought to holiness. Jesus is the only one who can do it.